What we're seeing in cities across British Columbia, from Nanaimo to Vancouver to Maple Ridge and into the interior, is residents and mayors are getting fed up with growing street crime and violent episodes. The statistics are very clear. Under the NDP, the Surrey RCMP report a 45% increase in violent crime. In Maple Ridge, the RCMP report a 144% increase in violent crime. In Victoria, break-and-enter calls recorded by the Vic PD are increasing so that they have almost tripled under the NDP, a 191% increase. Calls related to weapons in Victoria up 88%, and vehicle theft up 70%. This year in Vancouver, the Vancouver Police Department has reported a 21% increase in assault with a weapon and aggravated assault. We've seen a 48% increase in business break-and-enters here in Vancouver. And in Strathcona, calls about weapons are up by 50%, and break-ins went up by 68%. It is not acceptable to hear of people being chased down the street by a man with a chainsaw. It is not acceptable to hear of a loaded assault rifle being found in an alleyway in Strathcona. It is not acceptable to hear of toddlers being spat upon and hair salons being intimidated and obstructed on Davie Street and Hornby Street. This is wrong. It's not okay to have this proliferation of crime in our urban centres, and it needs to be fixed. Our communities need to be safe. People need to feel secure in their neighbourhoods. Sadly, the NDP has ignored this problem of growing urban crime. They've ignored the growth of tent cities, hoping it'll just go away. The NDP have done nothing more than concentrate these issues into inner-city neighbourhoods. And when it comes to tent cities, an NDP cabinet minister said this week, and I quote, "You can't just go in and scoop people up and throw them into hotels and expect success." But that's exactly what the NDP are doing. And it doesn't work, but they do it anyway. And now she's saying, let's have permanent tent cities. This is wrong. This is not our British Columbia. This is not what we want as a society. The result is street disorder, concentrated crime in the communities of Yaletown and Strathcona and Vancouver, and in Beacon Hill and Burnside and Victoria. And we're also seeing this in towns like Nanaimo, Maple Ridge, Kamloops, Kelowna. This is just not acceptable that our provincial government says there's nothing can be done. Mayors from Nanaimo, Maple Ridge, Burnaby and Coquitlam have all come out this week to say that the NDP's plan of supporting permanent tent cities and warehousing people suffering from mental health and addictions issues is not acceptable. It's just plain wrong. Our most vulnerable people are being left to drift on the streets of our cities. And let's be clear, these are people who are suffering from brain injuries, from untreated mental illness, and from addictions. They deserve better, just like everybody else in British Columbia deserves better. Our communities are paying the price, too, with chaotic streets, violent crime, and ordinary people being driven out of their neighbourhoods and saying they're going to move away because they don't want to have their children grow up in that environment. We're seeing a high-security fence being put around Strathcona Elementary. How did we get to this place? And the answer is it's happened under the NDP. We can never forget that the first victims of crime in these circumstances are those most vulnerable people in the camps themselves. They are preyed upon by the criminal element with violent and oppressive crimes that make their lives intolerable. It is wrong to abandon them to these criminals, and it is wrong to let criminals intimidate people on the streets. As a former medical doctor, I can tell you that the way to deal with this is to treat the causes and prevent the harm. There are underlying treatments that need to be provided for people with brain injuries, with psychiatric disorders, and with addictions. We can do better. The mayors of BC's largest cities are demanding that provincial politicians step in and deal with these problems of street crime and disorder. We need to treat the underlying causes of homelessness, addiction, and mental health issues and prevent the harm. The NDP have abandoned these neighbourhoods, and done nothing more than warehouse people who are seriously ill. I'm with the mayors on this, and I'm including NDP Mayor Leonard Krogh in that list because he is saying exactly the same thing. To quote Mayor Krogh, the current situation is testing the limits of community tolerance. This is not acceptable. We can do better. We must do better for everybody in British Columbia. There needs to be a clear pathway to get people off drugs. We need prevention and recovery to treat the causes, not just wait for the consequences. And under the NDP's failed approach of simply warehousing these people, there is no such treatment program. There is no prevention. There is no opportunity to get people off drugs. We need to end these lawless camps and tent cities and city parks with a provincial mandate to help these vulnerable people and reestablish order on our streets. We need to use all the tools available, legislation, policy, funding, programs to treat the causes and prevent the harm. A BC Liberal government will provide the tools for our courts, for law enforcement, and for first responders to keep us all safe in our communities, and the important tools for treatment and prevention of these vulnerable people who are suffering in our society. We need to face reality. The NDP approach is a complete failure. Our streets aren't safe enough, and our citizens are not getting the care they need. We need to help those that need it most. We need to ensure that families, kids, and seniors feel safe on the streets of the cities they love. We need to restore confidence and rebuild BC, and this is an important step in getting to a better place than the NDP have left to us.